Welcome back to another episode of Guitar Talk with Todd. Here is a portion of the audio from my interview with the great Mark Farner. This was originally published in print and online in 2019. I love Mark. He's a super great guy, and this is one of my favorite interviews that I've done. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and enjoy my interview with the great Mark Farner. Thank you so much for speaking with me today, Mark. You're certainly a hero of mine. You've given us some of the greatest music of all time, and I just love everything that you stand for as a human, too. So thank you so much for speaking with me today.
I appreciate it, Brother Todd.
So let's go way back to when you were a kid. What are your earliest memories of music?
Well, the first music was the music that was made at either my mother's house or my Aunt Dorothy's house. There's sisters in the family, but everybody'd show up with a dish to pass, and we'd have music every Sunday. There would be my Grandpa Cotton, Uncle Woody, Uncle Brian. My dad played saxophone and guitar, and my mom sang. And when those women would sing, Todd, man, it was like, oh my God.
Well,
there's something about family, you know.
Yeah.
Best memories. And so that got me turned on to the desire. I had the desire, but I was frightened of the exposure coming out of, this little body. I wonder how people are going to take me off.
Right. I know I've read that your very first guitar was a K, I believe. Do you remember anything about that, or when you first started out playing?
That was a rented guitar, but that's what I learned on. That's what I learned, the basics, and that's within the first 3 lessons of the guitar lessons. I learned to keep my fingernails trim and to how to tune to the guitar without a tuner.
Right.
and a little ditty, like that's what he taught me, and then he had blown his foot off. It was hunting season in Michigan, and ringneck pheasant was very plentiful back then. And anyways, climbing a fence, he shot himself in the foot, told my mother he wasn't going to be able to teach anymore, and that Mark needs to go on and watch the guys in the high school, because I was picking up by ear, and he knew this. And so I did. That's what I watched. Rod Lester and Chuck Hitt and Jim Keener and all these guys that were playing music just to play it, and go to VFW halls and play wedding receptions and go play rock hops from the disc jockeys back then would have dances, and all the people would turn out, and the jock would play his stuff and everybody'd dance, But when it was a live band showing up, it was extra special. And that's how it was back in the day when we got started. So we didn't have to play bars and nightclubs. We just played hops.
Right. Okay, so I know I've read in the past where you've said your most thrilling performance on stage was when Grand Funk played at the 1969 Atlanta Pop Festival.
Absolutely. Because there's nothing like the first time.
Right.
And being just a garage band from Flint, Michigan, getting up on that stage, but playing original music. They loved it until we got to Land of a Thousand Dances, and we did it like Wilson Pickett.
Okay.
And then I got loose, got away from my guitar, threw it over to the guitar tech, and I'm out with a microphone singing and dancing out front. And I'm just restricted by this brand new paisley print shirt that I got on, and it's see-through, but it's paisley print, and it's, kind of sexy. And
yeah.
this damn thing was sticking to my arm, sticking to my chest, and sticking to me. I just ripped it off, man. I mean, I was so infuriated by it. And the audience loved that stuff, man. It was like, oh, all right.
great. All right, so talking about live performances, of course, we have to speak about Shea Stadium. I mean, that's got to be hard to even put into words. That had to have just been unbelievable playing there.
Yeah, goosebumps on your goosebumps.
Exactly. Well, I know when the Beatles played there, you always hear these stories about the PA couldn't even keep up with the people. They were just overpowered by the crowd and you couldn't even hear anything that they were doing. I'm sure you guys had a better PA than the Beatles did, but I've heard you were actually overpowered too because there was just such a huge crowd there.
Yes, and at one point when we're doing I'm Your Captain, the audience was singing I'm Getting Closer to My Home louder than the PA, and because it was in a semicircle, that audience, their focal point was second base, and that's where we were set up, man, and it was like, holy crap, are you believing this volume of these voices? It overtook the PA.
Wow.
It was like the most amazing thing, and I'm looking around going, wow, are you feeling this?
That's just amazing. Mark, I definitely hear a lot of the blues in your playing. Let's kind of talk about your early influences of hearing the blues and stuff like that. Are there any particular players that you were really influenced by in the blues genre or that really stood out to you?
Well, I always dug Ronnie Earl guitar.
Oh, sure.
And, of course, B.B. King, you know, I loved him. I got to play on stage with B.B., and I remember playing his 75th birthday party in Detroit. And it was a spectacular evening, and everybody was just so into B.B. You know, he had that sound, but he had the heart for it, Brother Todd. And that's what I always was looking for in music. And when I listened to the blues, I sat up with Kurt Johnson. He was in the first band that we ever had, which was Mojo and the Nightwalkers. And we would listen to John R. way down south in, where was it? It was in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Way down south in Dixie. And then you're listening to the Royal Crown Hairdressing Show. And then, man, he would play the blues, and we would just be eating white bread, mayonnaise, and raw onion sandwiches listening to the blues.
So let's talk about songwriting for a second. I know in the past I've read that you've always said that the music comes first to you and then the lyrics when you're writing a song. Is that still pretty much true today?
The majority of the time, that's still the way it is, Brother Todd.
Okay.
The music, I get inspired by, you know, finding this chord, that chord, this inversion of a chord, and thank God for Dick Wagner in my life to get me started on this. But I'm still into the jam, and once I get the jam and the feeling and to get that going within me, then lyrics follow. Or sometimes, you know, like I'm writing songs now with Jim Peterick. He wrote Eye of the Tiger, you know.
Well, sure, Jim. Yeah, Jim lives right by me. I know him. Yeah, definitely. He's a great guy.
Yep. And I'm doing some writing with him now and some other people too. I have always kind of been to myself, but it feels good to branch out and get some, you know, other people involved and see how that matures into something.
I know you mentioned Dick Wagner a minute ago. Let's go back and talk about Dick a little bit. I know he had the band The Frost, but I'm sure you probably knew him even before he had The Frost, right?
Yes, the band before The Frost was The Bossmen.
Okay.
B-O-S-M-E-N. And I was in The Bossmen for about a year and a half. And that was when I was playing rhythm guitar for Dick, and I wrote my first song because we sat up one night after a gig and got home, and his kids and wife were to bed in the apartment. We sat there with our electric guitars, but not plugged in, you know, so it was very quiet. We could do things. He could show me some chord inversions and what have you. And I asked him at that time, I said, Dick, man, you write all these songs. How the hell do you come up with that stuff? I mean, where's it coming from? He says, you can write, Mark. I said, I can? He says, yeah, man. It comes from inside. And he says, I know you got it in you. He says, you just got to let yourself go there. And so with those words, he went to bed and I wrote Heartbreaker.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first song I ever wrote.
Well, not a bad first song. That's kind of unbelievable. I mean, most people, I know my first song was terrible. So, I mean, that's unbelievable that you wrote something like that right out of the gate.
Yeah, man. It was a blessing.
You played on Ronnie Montrose's 10 by 10 album on the great Any Minute track. I love that song, and I love everything that Ronnie did. He's a huge influence on me. Can you talk about Ronnie a little bit? Do you have any great memories with him?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when we went out with Pat Travers and Ronnie Montrose, and they called it like Guitar Gods or something.
Right.
It was a, kind of a 70s guitar fest thing, and it was good because I got to know Ronnie. I talked to him on the phone a lot and communicated with him prior to actually meeting him. But when I hugged him, man, I knew who he was. And he was just a loving individual, and, it was an honor to be able to play on his stuff.